Oh no!
All right, there we are. You turn it down.
30 minutes.
All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Saturday. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Oh, we had the leftover turkey sandwiches last night. I put a little too much salt in the mayo, but it was still good, and it didn't stop me. Did not stop me from eating them things. Oh man, he puts, you gotta have the skin on turkey, and you put sriracha and butter in the pan so it get all nice and spicy, and then he zhuzhes up the mayo and toasts the bread. Yes. Yes. I even went out and got Gouda cheese, man. I thought, we're going to get this right. Yeah.
You went there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. See, that's the only way I like the Thanksgiving turkey. It's all the after show. I like ham. What can I say? It is how I am. Anyway, so we are back in Matthew, and there is a lot going on in Matthew chapter 26. We went past the triumphal entry. We've done all those things. And well, we've talked about the end times and the signs of the time and what's going to differentiate his people from people that are just playing church. The wise virgins, the foolish virgins, the goats, the sheeps, and it goes back into the actions. Sadly, y'all, I know this is not a works gets you into heaven thing, but works are the proof of your salvation. There's no way to do it, the other way to divide it. It's not in the things that necessarily seem super spiritual. We learned that it's in taking care of the sick, the widows, the orphans, and visiting those in prison, in feeding the hungry, in clothing the naked, those things. The things that we see Jesus doing throughout the Gospels. We see him being moved with compassion on people. And so if we are to be his followers, we have to truly follow in his footsteps and be moved with compassion. That's my summary. There you go. So I'm going to be reading in the King James. I may jump to the NASB, and I may jump to the Amplified, but there you go. So, and it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples, Ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. He wasn't hiding anything. He was letting them know, look, this is exactly what's going to happen. Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and consulted that they might take Jesus by subtlety and kill him. Now, they knew who Jesus was. That's the thing we need to understand. They knew he was the Messiah, the Son of God, and yet this church leadership was going to kill him anyway because it didn't fit the mold that they had created to themselves. That happens so many times today. Churches kill the spirit because it doesn't fit the mold that they've set for themselves. Don't be that way. But they said, not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar among the people. They were scared of the people, the riot, the whatever. They had to sway the people. They had to do things sneaky. Usually when it's wrong, you have to go about things sneaky. Now, when Jesus was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman, having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he sat at meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, To what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. When Jesus understood it, he said unto them, Why trouble ye the woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. For in that she hath poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this, that this woman hath done, be told for a memorial of her. I got to thinking about that. You know, in our quest to I don't know, look good, to serve the Lord, whatever you want to call it, how many times do we look at how someone else lavishes service on the Lord and say, what a waste. There was no point in you doing it that way. Why would you do that? Why would you? No, we could have done this, this, and this. You see it evident in the church world when people of God have nice things. Why would you lavish things on the house of God that way? Why would you? Why they're just doing this way? You know, we come in and every year, bless it, we have the same talk. All right, guys, we're gonna have a meal. We're gonna have a whatever, and we're gonna keep it small. Every year, do we not have? We're gonna set up a menu. We're gonna keep it small. And what do? We come in and we lavish and we outpour and we outdo. You know, a lot of people would say, well, that's just a waste. No, it's not. It's not a waste, because we're doing it as unto the Lord. We're loving His people. That's what it is. It's an outpouring of lavish love. And we need to be careful, because, you know, some people we can kill by saying, you don't need to do it that way. No, that's too much. No, there's no amount that's too much when we're doing it to love the Lord and to love His people. No amount is too much. You know what? If we need another table, we need another table, and that's okay. You know what? If there's some that made it to the trash can, that's going to be okay too, because we don't want to stop the love. You got something?
Yes.
Okay.
What y'all did, y'all touched lives and people that y'all never even met.
That's right.
When I took the food, I shared it with one of the women I work with, and she said that was some of the best food she's ever ate. She said she ate some before she went to bed, and when she woke up that night, she ate the rest of it. And my little client, my little lady, she feasted.
There you go.
And it was worth it.
That's right. That's right. It's always worth it. You know what? The kids, they're gonna go today. We're gonna take them. We're gonna buy them a nice meal, and we're gonna take them and let them stuff shoe boxes for Operation Christmas Child. They've been saving their offerings all year, and let me tell you something. If the offerings ain't enough, the church will make sure that they have enough to fill those boxes to the point we gonna have to duct tape them shut. Okay? We're going to go overboard. We're going to do it. You know, I remember one year doing this with the kids. I had a whole bunch of girls. Lord have mercy. It was nothing but a whole bunch of girls back there then. And this was, Katie wasn't even part of the group at that point, so this tells you how far it was. And they wanted to do a baby. They wanted 3 kids specifically, and they started to pray. Well, okay. I said, well, y'all going to have to get out and y'all going to work this thing. Y'all going to have to do... Everybody had to put, they sold candy, they did all kinds of stuff. In addition, they did a bake sale because they were going to sponsor 3 kids. Well, at the time, we kind of had a standing rule that you had to have $300 per kid. And so for 4 girls to raise this much money, they had over $1,000 by the time it was time to go shopping. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they got out and they worked it.
What you stuff? A big toilet paper box?
Well, this was for, we did Angel Tree at the cracker. We did it, you know, that way. And they had a baby. You know, they wanted to do a baby. They bought a high chair. They bought, was it the crib too? The crib, the high chair. I mean, diapers, wipes. We had to make, I think it was 5, we packed a minivan full. They bought bikes that year. They bought Bibles. They did all this stuff, and they went above and beyond. And I know that stuff gets broke up for the kids who don't get picked. I know that. But we made sure that we bought an entire Christmas. If I'm not badly mistaken, they even bought rolls of wrapping paper and sent with it.
Wow.
So that there was nothing left for the parents to do except wrap it. You know, that's the kind of lavish outpouring of love that we as Christians should think is normal. You know, when we do something, we should go above and beyond. You know, that wasn't a waste of ointment that was a year's wage, because that's how much that perfume was. It was a year's wage. You'd have to work all year just to buy that, and she dumped it on Jesus, just instead of selling it for the money. You could do a lot with a year's wage, but it was gone in 5 minutes. But it wasn't a waste. But it wasn't a waste. And we need to understand that when we take time and we invest in people, it's not a waste. When we go lavishly to show love, it's not a waste. You know, there's so many things that you can do. Some of our sisters are getting ready to work a ministry that lavishes love. Lavishes. And it brings new meaning to the word lavish. And it's never a waste. It's never a waste when you lavish love. Never a waste. So when someone's lavishing love, think before you stop them. Think before you stop them. Even if you say, man, you know what, they don't have it to do that. No, they don't do it. God will take care of them. God will reward them. God will see to it that they have what they need. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, this is verse 14. This was the straw that broke the camel's back with Judas. Why? Because his hand was already in the money bag. Okay? In other Gospels you read, and Judas was kind of leading this little circle about how this was a waste. Yeah, he was dipping in the money pouch. He just wanted to line his own pocket. So then Judas went into the chief priests and said unto them, what will you give me, and I will deliver you unto him. Deliver him unto you. And they covenanted with him for 30 pieces of silver. 30 pieces of silver. Now, I know you've probably heard the phrase in the price of a dead slave. And if you go to, I believe it's in Exodus, it tells you that if you have an ox and it rends a slave and kills him, that you have to pay the slave owner 30 pieces of silver for the slave. So that's where that connection is drawn, the price of a dead slave. So there you go. Sold for the price of a dead slave. And that was not very much money at the time. It was just, I think less than $20 in today's money. That's how much he betrayed the Son of God for. How much do we betray the Son of God for? $20. You know, shady vocabulary, shady jokes, shady TV shows, things we shouldn't watch, gossiping, backbiting, hanging on to being angry, bitter, hurt, selfish. But we betray him, we sell him. And from that time, he sought opportunity to betray him. He was always looking. Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat Passover? Where are we going to eat? What house do we need to be in? And he said, go into the city to such a man, and say unto him, the master saith, my time is at hand, I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. Just go find this man. He's over there, go find him. You know, the disciples didn't know where they were going or what they were doing. All they knew was to do whatever Jesus said. I think there's a lot to be learned from that. Don't matter. Just do what Jesus says to do. He'll take care of the rest. He'll put you on the path you need to be on. Y'all quiet this morning. And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed them, and they made ready the Passover. Now when the even was come, he sat down with the 12. And as they did eat, he said, Verily I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me. And they were exceeding sorrowful, and began every one of them to say unto him, Lord, is it I? Lord, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? And he answered and said, He that dippeth his hand with me in the dish, the same shall betray me. The Son of Man goeth, as it is written of him. But woe unto that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It had been good for that man if he had not been born. Jesus knew who his betrayer was. You know, I see a lot of stuff going around on Facebook. Jesus knew who Judas was from the beginning. He knew when he chose him to follow him that he would do this. But he still sat down at the table with him. He still offered him the covenant. He still did everything with Judas. You'll see it a lot on Facebook. Judas ate too. You know, we need to remember that. Sadly, people will let you down. People will hurt you. People will betray you. But we need to take a page out of Jesus' book. We don't return evil for evil. We return good for evil. We turn the other cheek. We do what's right. You can't control what somebody else does, but you can control yourself.
Do you think that maybe, and I don't know, but do you think that maybe this was trying to give Judas an opportunity to be confronted so that he could repent? I mean, he didn't, but I'm just wondering. I don't know. Kind of, because it said he shall do this.
Well, it had to happen. It had to happen. But we see two stories in this. We see Judas and we see Peter. Because Peter denied him. Peter rejected him 3 times and went back to his old life. Judas hung himself. Peter repented. There's a difference. You never hear of Peter going back to that old life after he repented. He changed. He did something different.
You don't tell where Judas went in.
Judas went out and hung himself.
So what happened to his soul?
No. Doesn't sound like he repented. So I would say that he was not in right standing with God. Best guess. Then Judas, which betrayed him, answered and said, Master, is it I? Is it me? Scheming and sneaking and doing. Is it me? Not little old me. Is it me? You know something I don't know? Hold up. Does he know? Am I not sneaky enough? Is it me? And he said unto him, Thou hast said, or as the NASB says, you've said it yourself. Yes, it is you. And he knew. And as they were eating, Jesus took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, Take, eat. This is my body. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, Drink ye all of it. For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. Now, I know we went back and we've talked about this a lot. These were wedding terms. This was a Jewish wedding speech that a bridegroom would make at the end of the signing of the marriage contract, which was the betrothal. They would come in and it wasn't final until the bride and the groom drank of the cup. And he'd say, I won't drink this cup again until you're with me in my Father's house, which was generally a year to 2 years later. So that's kind of neat that he's spelling it out in terms that they would understand, but us as the Western church, not being in Jewish culture, don't always make that connection. That's why we take part in the Lord's Supper. You know, this was at the end of a Passover feast. The bread was unleavened, which means leaven typically represented sin, so it was sinless. He said, this was my body, sinless and broken. And when they had sung an hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. They ended that with singing. I like that. Then saith Jesus unto them, all ye shall be offended because of me this night. For it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. All of you are going to be offended. All of you are going to leave me. All of you are going to flee. All of you are going to run. I already know this. But after I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee. Telling them it's not the end. Peter answered, leave it to Peter to be the one to voice something. He was the designated spokesman of the group. Peter answered and said unto him, though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet will I never be offended. Jesus, you made a mistake. No, Jesus didn't make a mistake. I mean, the audacity. Jesus, they might do that, but not me. You made a mistake. You missed it, Jesus. I don't think Jesus ever misses it. Peter sure did, though. There were some things that had to get worked out of Peter. Jesus said unto him, verily I say unto thee, that this night before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. Boy, you gonna deny me 3 times before the rooster crows. What you talking about? It's a rough night. Peter said unto him, though I should die with thee, he gonna double down. Yet will I not deny thee. Likewise also said all the disciples. He gonna double down. How many times do people double down?
They joined in with him, said all the disciples said the same thing.
Peter was a natural leader. He had something. Charisma. Pep, gusto, whatever you want to call it, but he was a ringleader.
Hitler had that.
Yep. And he didn't use it correctly. It's sad. Did a lot of evil. Then cometh Jesus with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto the disciples, sit ye here while I go and pray yonder. Now I'm going to switch over to the Amplified, because the Amplified lays it out how it should be read. It's not just to sit here and twiddle your thumbs. It's not an idea that I just want you to wait for me. There's more implied. There is a whole lot more implied. Let's see. Let me scroll on down. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Sit here and go over while I pray. Let's see. Tells him to be awake. I might need the classic. Let's try the classic. It's the classic. Classic's a little bit different. None of olives. Here you go. Let's see. Then Jesus, he told his disciples, sit here while I go over there and pray. It says, and taking with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, James and John, he began to be grieved and greatly distressed. Then he said to them, my soul is deeply grieved, so that I am almost dying of sorrow. Stay here and stay awake and keep watch with me. He tells them to pray. He tells them to be alert, to be vigilant, to have his back. And after going a little farther, he fell face down and prayed, saying, my Father, if it is possible, that is consistent with your will, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and said to Peter, so you men could not stay awake and keep watch with me for 1 hour. Keep actively watching and praying that you may not come into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak. How many times do we get lulled into sleep and stupor? Our bellies are filled because of good things, because of previous victories, spiritual whatevers, high services that are great where the power of God is moving in full strength, a good worship service, a good whatever, and we get lulled to sleep in the hour that we need to be awake and actively praying because the enemy is upon us. How many times does God tell us to stand, to be consistent, to do, and we get lulled back into the same old habits, into the same old things, even though He's told us before the trial ever comes exactly how it's going to play out, exactly how it's going to happen. You're going to betray me. You're going to deny me. You're going to run. I'm going to be crucified. Hey, stay awake. The temptation's coming. The enemy's at the gate. What are you going to do? Are you going to stand? Are you going to be vigilant? Can you last an hour? If you can't last an hour, how are you going to go for days? If you can't do this, how are you going to do that? How many times is that the case?
You can't run with a horse with a foot soldiers.
What are you going to do when the horses come? Exactly. Exactly. This is the mindset that we have to take on. This is what we have to understand. He went away a second time and prayed, saying, my Father, if this cannot pass away unless I drink it, your will be done. Jesus didn't want to die on the cross. Any other way to save him, God, I'm open to suggestions.
But he was obedient even to death.
This was his cup. Now, think about what happened earlier that evening. What did he tell his disciples? Drink this cup with me. Drink this cup. Take part in it. And now he's talking about drinking of a cup with his Father. A covenant with his Father. See, when we come in and take part in communion, we're remembering that covenant. We're drinking the same cup that Christ drank. We're agreeing to the same terms. We're agreeing to what he said in Matthew 5:48. Be ye therefore perfect, even as my Father in heaven is perfect. Does that mean that you have to fix it all in 5 minutes? No. Because he shows you a little bit, and he expects you to do something about it. And then when you do something about that, he shows you a little bit more, and you do more. Think about as a child grows. The same requirements aren't on a 2-year-old that's on a 12-year-old. You know? And he's the same way. He understands that we're going to grow and we're going to progress in those perfections. We're going to be progressively perfected. And that's okay. And you can walk perfect in what you know. I think about the analogy of a first grader comes in with a report card and it's all A's. And an 11th grader comes in with a report card and it's all A's. Perfect report cards. Does the first grader know what the 11th grader knows? Nope. If you gave the first grader the 11th grader's work, would they make all A's?
Nope.
Nope. But still perfect for a first grader, isn't it? That's what walking perfect in your circle is, according to what you know and what you understand. Now, you don't get to play the I didn't know that card though. Once you know, you're accountable for something. You know, just like that 11th grader can't go back to first grade. No, you in 11th grade now.
Probably the best analogy I've heard that yet. Like that. Thank you.
There you go. Progressive perfection. It can be attained. It can be attained. We hear of numerous people in the Bible who were perfect in their generations. Paul said that, hey, there's people out there that's walking perfect. I haven't yet got that far, but I'm getting there. He said, I've marked them and I'm following them. So Paul even recognized that there were people further in their walk than he was at that time that he wrote the epistles. Wrap your noodle around that one. Because I know we get the mindset, ooh, Paul, he gave us most of the New Testament. He was the apostle to the Gentiles. Wow, Paul. But Paul's saying there's people that further than him, hold up, that he's learning from people. Ironically, he learned from Phoebe and some other women of the faith.
But you know, the Bible clearly teaches us though that once we know,
Yeah.
we're held accountable. We can't keep
Yeah.
using the excuse,
Yep.
I'm trying.
Nope. No,
You know,
exactly. That's why it doesn't tell us to strive for perfection. It doesn't tell us to try. It tells us that we better train as an athlete trains to win a medal or a crown at the time. You better give it your all or die trying.
you know, a lot of people want to say, well, I'm trying because they ain't got any intention on actually changing. They want to continue on the same path and expect different results, and it don't work
It don't work that way. You know, I know this is going to sound awful, but here we go. Let's go with the glass house here. A lot of times I'll be sitting on the couch with Matt in the evening, and we got one of them reclining sofas, you know, that's really nice. And I sitting under my blanket doing whatever, usually have some dogs on me because we're dog people, what can I say? And I'll be set something on my coffee table. And I want what's on the coffee table. And I'll sit and I'll go, eh, like this. Has anybody else ever made one of those maneuvers? I can't reach it. I can't reach it. Matt will just look at me. If I sit there long enough, sometimes he'll lower his footrest and hand me the thing. Am I really trying? Am I really trying?
Trying
But
to get
that-
him to move.
If I really wanted it, I could hit that lower the leg button myself
If
and
you
reach
wasn't
it.
around, you could make it happen.
I could make it happen, but that's the try that most Christians do in their walk. I tried. I guess I can't be perfect. I tried. I guess that's not what I'm really supposed to do. Jesus will forgive me.
He knows my heart.
That's not it.
Yeah, he knows my heart.
He knows
He
my
knows,
heart.
oh yeah, he knows my
Yeah,
heart.
he really does.
Yes, he
Yeah.
does.
That's the problem. He
Yeah.
really knows.
He knows that should scare you.
Yeah.
That should concern you. He knows your heart. He knows the depth of your try. Okay? That's why you need to get try out of your vocabulary. You know, think of anything that you want to improve on. I did this test and I need to get back to doing it. I'm kicking myself in the rear on this one, y'all. I used to say, well, I'm trying to do better. But I never actually did better, and this was usually in the realm of cleaning my house. I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to do this. But it never got better. And then I stopped saying trying, and I started saying, I'm doing better. I'm doing better. And my actions started following my words a little more, and guess what actually happened? I did better with the housework. I did better in these areas. So, you know what? If we say, I'm trying to be perfect,
There's that room.
there's that room not to really do it. But if I'm becoming perfect, if I am being perfected, I'm actually doing it then. I'm not giving myself the wiggle room to not do it anymore. I'm not saying it's an all at once thing. That first grader is not chumping into 11th grade and expected to make A's. But according to what you know, you can be perfect. You can become perfect. You can be perfect each day. Each day you can learn it. You can learn it. Just like a teacher teaches a child, the Holy Spirit will teach you. The Word of God will teach you, and you can make the grades. You can apply yourself because He's not putting more on you than you can do. That's the thing we need to understand. So the second time, he prayed again. 43, and again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. Belly full, eyes are heavy, and they got comfortable. First rule of trying to stay awake, if you're that sleepy, you stand up and you move around. You engage some things. So leaving them again, and he didn't even bother with them at that point. At what point is God gonna just not bother with you anymore? At what point is Jesus just gonna let you sleep? That's some things we don't like to think about. That's some things we don't like to think about. Now these are the ones who knew. They've been living with him for 3.5 years at this point, following him. Let him sleep. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the third time, saying the same words once more. Is that praying for the same thing more than once, y'all? Jesus himself employed that?
There you go.
Wow!
Third time too, that's pretty cool.
Wow! Wow!
That's neat.
Just saying. I know we get hung up sometimes on tradition.
You gotta change to the word.
Yeah, change to the word. Hey, if it was okay for Jesus to do it, it's okay for you to do it. Didn't change his faith. He didn't change what he was going to do. He was going to yield to the will of the Father, but he going to make sure that there ain't no other option.
Yeah, verse 44 knocks that out about praying more than one time.
There you go.
Prayed the third time, saying
Yep,
the same
same
thing.
words, same prayer. Woo. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Listen, the hour of my sacrifice is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners, whose way and nature is to oppose God. Get up, let us go, and look, my betrayer is near. Hour's here." What did they miss in their napping? What did they miss? What might they have received? We'll never know. Because they gave in to what their flesh wanted. Their bellies were full, their eyes were heavy. My body says sleep, so I'm going to sleep. You know, how many times my body says I'm tired, so I'm going to sleep in, and it's okay to miss one service. Or how many times, well, you know what, they made me angry, so I just let them have it double barreled because that's what I wanted to do. That's what my brain told me to do, so that's what I did. No. Your anger, your emotions, your flesh is a toddler throwing a temper tantrum. And the problem with society today is we've let the toddlers become the parents. And that ain't how it's supposed to be. Guess what? The same thing in your vessel. The Spirit of God is the adult. And the Spirit should dictate what the body does, not the other way around. We're called to do better and be better. We're called to be perfect. That's how you be perfect. you say, hey, God, I'm gonna do what you tell me to do. If you tell me that it's foolish to be angry, then not to even hang around with an angry person because you're gonna learn their ways. I don't want to do that. Because it doubles up on that. It goes from being that an angry person is a foolish person and a fool is in danger of hellfire. Anger is not a good thing. It's an emotion and you should rule it. Just like any other emotion. You shouldn't be ruled by jealousy or anything of those ugly things. You shouldn't be ruled by your appetites. You shouldn't be ruled by your lust. You shouldn't be ruled by all the many things. Let me tell you something. By the time I get to the house, I'll probably have about 15 million emotions that run through my brain. Just happens. I can think about the dishes that didn't go in the dishwasher and I can get agitated. I can think about, what I'm going to get at the Cracker Barrel and I can get hungry. I can think about a million things. I can get impatient. I can get happy. I can get, which one am I going to go with? Which one's going to rule me? Because if I just act on all the million emotions, I'm going to be a basket case. I'm going to be what the Word calls an unstable person. Childish.
And they can expect to receive nothing.
And they can expect to receive nothing. Don't be childish. So here we go, 47. As Jesus was still speaking, while he was even saying it, Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples, came up, accompanied by a large crowd with swords and clubs, who came as representatives from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign saying, whomever I kiss, he is the one, seize him. Immediately Judas went to Jesus and said, greetings, Rabbi, and he kissed him in a deliberate act of betrayal. Not everybody that's heaping kisses on you is your friend. They're not out to help you. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but an enemy will heap them kisses on you. Right on into hell, pat you on the back. You got a right to be that way, but no.
But if you are so immature that you cannot take correction or the truth from a friend, that all you want is the lies of the enemy.
Yeah. Well.
And that's 90% of the world
They
today.
hurt my feelings. They hurt my feelings.
They want somebody to smile and
Yeah,
lie to them and
Make me feel
pat them on
good.
the back and and separate from the ones that's trying to help them and tell them the truth.
Yeah. Exactly. I think about the things that, in the, like on, you see these shows on TV and whatnot. I like to watch medical stuff a lot of times, and I watch the things like, the people that are severely overweight, and can't get out overweight, you know what I'm saying? Like 700 pounds, 800 pounds, 900
600
pounds.
pound life.
Yeah, things like that. And they can't get out and go. So, how are they staying that way? Well, what's happening? Friends
Enablers.
are bringing
Enablers.
soda, large pizzas, fried chicken, donuts. Those friends never walk in with a vegetable tray to balance it out. Those friends never walk in with, hey, you know what, we're going to try this new recipe and we're going to put you on an allotment like the doctor said. They never do that, do they? They bring in the other stuff that just keeps, and then the person just cries and cries because they don't know why they're the way they are. Or they get mad at the one that might randomly try to say, hey, we should do things the way the doctor said. I can't do that! Which one's trying to keep you alive? The one that's telling you what you want to hear? Is bringing you to Popeyes? No. No, but how often do we act that way when a brother or a sister or a pastor or an elder says, hey, that road that you're taking is going to lead you into trouble. You need to stop right here. Oh, how dare they tell me that? I can't do that. We get upset, and I say to you because you know what? I've been there. I've been there with I don't understand why you're telling me I can't do this thing. Because this thing is going to lead to spiritual consequences. Because this thing you ain't conquered yet. Because it's not about this thing, it's about the spirit and the attitude and the motives behind that thing. That's why Paul says, all things are legal, but not all things are profitable. Not everything's going to help me. He wasn't talking about quote-unquote sins. You know, if you have a problem with wanting to be a hermit, which runs in my family, y'all, guess what? There's some days I come in the house and I look at Matt and I say, I have peopled all I can people. Okay? It runs in my family. I have to deal with that. I have to push myself out beyond that. Why? Because you know what? I can get in my little group, I can hole up, and I can be happy as a little lark. I ain't got to deal with nobody else. That's what comes natural to me. Why? Because my dad dealt with that. His dad dealt with that. And I'm sure if you go right on down the line, you got a bunch of men that pass that particular sin down. Because let's call it what it is, it's sin. It's sin. Because how are you going to shine the light of Jesus if you don't want to be around people? I mean, let's be real. How are you going to love people if you can't stand being around them?
Mm-hmm.
It's sin. Let's call it what it is. It's selfish. So if I have that predisposition, guess what? I may not need to spend excess amounts of time in situations that put me by myself. And if I can't regulate the alone time, then I don't need it, period. Why? Because it's not profitable for me. It's not that being alone is a sin. Taking your few minutes or your hour or your day of the week or whatever. But if it starts to control me, it becomes that. It becomes a hindrance to me and I have to leave it behind. The same way the Bible says that if you are, when you sit with somebody and you're desirous of their dainties that they put, take a knife and put it to your throat if you're given the appetite. Well, that's talking about more than just food. You know what? If you desire to hobnob and elbow with people, you better consider what's being laid on the table and what the cost of that's going to be. You better understand everything around it, because it's not just about the thing; it's the attitudes, the motives, ultimately the spirit behind the thing.
So you better off being by yourself.
No, you're not. But you better choose your circle wisely. You better choose your circle wisely. See, when you sit down to eat, you're going into a covenant. See, that's something in the Western mindset we don't understand, but when you share a meal, you share a covenant. That's the mindset that's going on. So before you enter into a covenant with somebody, you better understand what you are agreeing to. So many things. So many things. If money rules you, you might not better get whole bucket loads of it. You might say, Lord, just feed me with bread convenient for me. I'm good. I might not need that million.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Especially if you're prone to sit on it.
If you got a problem with lust, the beach may not be the place for you to go in the summer. Okay? Let's be real. You may not need to scroll the internet by yourself if you got a problem with it. These are things. But this is where being perfect and trying to be perfect differ. So here we go. So I kissed him. Jesus said to Judas, friend, do what you came for. Then they came and seized Jesus and arrested him. And one of those who were with Jesus reached out and drew his sword and struck Malchus, the slave of the high priest, and cut off his ear.
That would be Peter.
That would be Peter, dynamic leader, little hothead, got a sword. There was 2 swords in the midst, by the way, with the disciples, just so you know. Then Jesus said to him, put your sword back in its place, for all those who habitually draw the sword will die by the sword. Let me tell you something, if you want to be a fighter and a brawler and arguing and bickering, that's how you gonna die, in that same state. You don't need to do that. That ain't what we supposed to do. Sheesh. And if you don't believe me, what happens with these people that are easily fired up and angry and whatnot, from the medical standpoint? What happens to them? My medical people, do they get high blood pressure? Do they stroke out? Do they have heart attacks? Do they have indigestion issues? Do they get cancers? I mean, is this all medically documented? You might want to mellow out. You might want to not be so hot-headed, so ready to just grab that thing and fight it out. You might want to take a step back.
I read about a man who was paralyzed, and his wife said that he went into a fit of rage before he was paralyzed.
There you
The
go.
wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, is it wise to be an angry person? Mm-mm. And I can say that. Why? Because guess what? Along with being a hermit, flows in my family tree. Being a hothead. Minnie didn't lose her temper. Minnie knows right where she left it. So Minnie needs to leave it there. Okay? Guess what I have to constantly monitor myself on? Do I need to breathe? Do I need to step back? Do I need to pray? Do I need to pray in tongues? You know, whatever it is, not to let that rule me. Not to make me react to a situation, but to respond to a situation. There's a difference. If you have a reaction to a medication, it ain't good. But if you respond to it, things are getting better. Let's see. So we put the sword up, Peter. Quit that mess. 53. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father and He will immediately provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? You really think that they're doing this against my will? Do you really think that they're doing anything that I'm not allowing at this point? And your little sword, what's it gonna do? How then will the scriptures be fulfilled that it must happen this way? There's more at stake than me and you. At that moment, Jesus said to the crowds, have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as you would against a robber? Day after day, I used to sit in the porches and courts of the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has to take place so that the scripture of the prophets would be fulfilled. Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. And we are going to leave off there today because we got some things to get to. I know it's a little bit early. On Facebook, YouTube, it's been real. I hope y'all will join us again. Monday morning we'll be continuing in 1 Corinthians. Monday night we'll have service at 7. May or may not be live because we might be decorating for Christmas. So, we love you. God loves you, and there ain't a thing you can do about it. I'll see y'all later.